That's crazy, boys.
Wait, I have to know what I signed up for, please.
So you'll be
Yeah,
scaring people away.
intellectual property. Yeah, I think you need to invite Ibrahim and Farlak. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe so. Oh no, he Ali's through with us, man. He being prejudice. You know.
Should I go in there?
I don't know. He might be away from his computer. Wow, wow. Yo, actually, look, cause I know some things about racial. What is it? Critical race theory, all that kind of stuff. But it is crazy to me that whole thing where it's like you see a black person and then they're like, oh, look at these, yada yada yadas, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I'll tell you what, man, nothing makes me angrier than seeing that. Nothing makes me angrier than somebody of a group tearing down their own group. You know what I mean? And that goes for like, I know.
I think it's something definitely internalized. So, yeah, I don't like that either. People hating their own group for the validation of other group.
Of
Yeah,
course, they'll
that's like
say it's not
that's
like that, but
especially
yeah.
common for like countries like India, right? Like for example, Indians. I mean, majority of the anti-Indian accounts are run by Indians, and I don't know for what reason they are seeking the Western validation. I mean, do you think it's a part of it is like tied to your like history or the past that your kind had to deal with? Could it be that it's rooted in your like upbringing, so to say, or not like your upbringing per se, but like your civilization or your race's upbringing?
Hmm. Right. What Nerd Thug is saying is like there are benefits. There are benefits for somebody to be a mouthpiece for the dominant group, right? Because then, of course, the dominant group can be like, see, they say there's no such thing as systemic racism, so obviously it's. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's not racist when they say it, right? They are allowed to say it, and they're saying it. We're just saying what they're. You know what I mean? Like I hear it all the time, dude. But right,
Oh,
and I think I don't know. I have a vague understanding of internalized racism as a term, but I will say is that some of it could be that, some of it could be self hatred, but other things too. It's like maybe people are just unaware, and like I said, they do see like that there's a benefit to it, and I think that there is always valid criticism to be waged, for any group as well as your own, but you can do it properly, and that's not what I see.
mhm.
Right. So, and you're talking about, well, and that's kind of different though. I feel like, you know, I would say that that's a material conditions type thing. And again, I always default to that. But um, oh, hold on, 1 second. But oh yeah, the hair thing. I mean, yeah, no, that's definitely been a long time thing. Even just yesterday I was talking about in the different servers that um, it wasn't until like 2010 or something that they officially removed some laws or some policies and companies in different states that were against certain kinds of hairstyles, right? Because they were unprofessional. If that doesn't tell you anything, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like,
No. What did they do?
1 second. Yeah, they just
They
removed
made certain
policies
hairstyles
that were
illegal.
outright racist because it was like they targeted like hairstyles that like black people traditionally have amongst themselves in their culture and such as being not professional, despite the fact that they were groomed, the hair looked fine, the hair looked good. It's just that, oh, this isn't, whatever, right? um but anyways,
What
It
period
is a
of time are we
professional.
talking about here?
what were you saying, Ali?
This it isn't a professional hairstyle. You're talking about this bit of American history. We're talk. If you're asking when this was a thing, this happened basically since inception of America up until the 1970s.
Well, Jim Crow, right? And then the 1970s, and but I was
It's
just going to
before
say,
before Jim Crow, brother. Before there's a history of black women in America having to be forced to wear a head wrap to cover their hair.
right, of course, of course.
Is it like forced by their parents or like forced by the
No,
government?
by white people. By
Yeah.
white people.
All right. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's all I was bringing up.
Lot.
Yeah, is that I saw a headline saying that even just like recently that was taken down in some companies and whatnot because of they're outright racist and whatnot. But yeah, just I really you know I don't like it that there's such a big thing about the wigs and whatnot. But
Well, I have
um,
trouble believing that because my parents are white. My parents didn't spank me. Like it's hard for me to believe a white man would force a black woman to wear a particular hairstyle.
Jeremy, is it hard for
Oh,
you to believe that white people in the early 1940s didn't even cook and that black women cooked and that white families ate pancakes and grits and cheese eggs and
Right.
sausage and these type of things all cooked by a black woman? Is that hard for you to believe as well?
1940s,
Through the 50s,
kinda.
through the 60s. Is that hard for you to believe, Jeremy?
That's kind of fucked up. So, 1940s, I think, is a little too late. Like if you said 1840s, I'd be like, okay.
No, no. This is, well, how do you not know this? This didn't end until the early 1970s.
Well, when I
no,
think
yeah,
of
that's not.
1940s, I think
My
of
point
like
is that
Hitler.
it didn't even end then, dog. You know?
No, I'm talking about servants in the house. I'm talking about people having
Mm.
servants and the
Oh, I
and
see.
this servant class being typically black people. This didn't end until early 1970s.
Interesting.
Well, I think he's
Well,
pointing to the economic disparity between them. Like there was no real uh, reparations or any sort of like social mobility that was offered to them to improve their material conditions after the civil rights movement, even when laws were passed that outlawed it.
Fascinating. Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. To me, and I've read some material on it, but the issue of race in America that has never been properly dealt with is one of the key drivers of like other issues like division, culture wars. I mean, it's a huge open wound still, right? I mean, you could look at it from so many different angles, and it's basically like you're only hurting yourself, you know? Oh, I mean, Absolutely, and I don't want to just monopolize the conversation, so please anyone step in. But I mean, you could say so many different things about it, but I mean, guys, you had Donald Trump not just once, many times, but the worst example is when he said they're polluting the bloodline of America. I mean, guys, that's literally Nazi rhetoric. Hitler said some. Absolutely, he said that. But of course, they always say things in a way, and actually not even. But you can always be like, oh wait. Plausible deniability. He just meant the illegal immigrants, the bad ones that they're sending over, right? Because to say that the U.S. or that the Mexican government is purposefully sending over illegal immigrants, right? Yeah, he said that, bro, and this was
I think
this
this
year.
is where it really shows the duopoly in America. That like both parties are for the same narrative because the left or Democrats they come at it from the angle of identity politics, and like when you really get into the details of identity politics, it just seemingly divides you more and more because then you can't find common ground, such as like, oh, we're both tenants, we're both renters, you know, like we're both like having to pay these egg prices. And then the right, they'll just use constant fear mongering, saying like, "Oh, these illegals are very the migrant crime. They're eating the cats and dogs." Even though like the most deportations happened under the Obama administration, and he actually was able to get rid of a lot of the violent offenders. And so now what Trump is doing is just sort of like pulling up to random Home Depots and just
Right.
grabbing whoever. And then the left makes a spectacle out of it, saying like, "Oh, look, these poor innocent families are being torn apart," and it also just doesn't help to like add to the discord or to the discourse.
Um. Uh, so so wait, I am kind of curious. What do you mean like identity politics from the left? I think I missed that point.
Yeah, yeah. So the Democrats they seemingly focus too much on the identity aspect of it. So like the fact that they are of Hispanic or Latino descent, the fact that like the LGBTQ is being disenfranchised, and that causes also like a negative reaction from the right. And so they're adding fuels to the fire instead of like trying to address like the root causes. Like, oh, the reason most immigrants come to the country is because they're out of economic desperation. You know, it's not necessarily that they're coming to be like do violent crimes, like the right says. Like they just the angle that they attack it from, it almost seems like they can't highlight too much the identities, like the soul nationalities or the soul cultures. Am I making sense, or
But the right,
are you still?
the right do the exact same thing. Like they play identity politics just as much. The only like, what do you think white Anglo-Saxon Protestant is? This is
No,
identity
I'm in
politics.
agreement. I'm in agreement. That's what I'm saying. It's a duopoly. It's a false. We're giving a false notion that the right and left, or the Democrats and the Republicans, are on opposite sides of a spectrum, but they're actually like they're in agreement on this one point. Like what they want is enough desperation out of the immigrant population that it either gets painted in too bad of a light, like Trump paints them in too bad of a light, and that causes or forces through uh, economic or not economic immigrant reformation, and then we'll have like tier 3 and tier 2 citizens who have like some sort of amnesty, much like how Reagan did. You know, he gave mass amnesty to many immigrants, and that caused influx of labor pool of like a lot more people you can hire for a lot less, and so then that just constantly pushes out the people who have been here for the longest, such as like white people, people who've naturalized citizens, and they'll just hire the tier 3 or tier 2 labor force rather than the people who want the premium. You know.
Um.
Yeah, and then
True. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Right.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, they're definitely trying to cause moral outrage so that then they can force the administration's hands into passing something such as like mass amnesty or other
So
things that like Reagan was in support of in
you
the
think that
80s.
the Democrats? Well, I think your first position is, or your broader position is that they're both playing their side, and it's an issue that they don't want to go away, right? Because the Republicans can keep bitching about illegal immigration, and the Democrats can keep, uh, I don't know, bitching on their own side, right? It benefits both of them, is what you're saying politically.
Yes, I'd say that
I've
they're
heard that.
both working at the behest of corporations, and the corporations have a very strong incentive to create a new tier of labor force that they can
Mm,
pay sub minimum wage,
it's
and
not
they
bad.
would be in direct competition with
You know,
naturalized citizens or long permanent residents.
I definitely can see the point, and I think it could make a lot of sense. But my thing is too is that like, I mean, we already have that in the form of what do they call it? You know, H-1B, right? It's like those guys are kind of the thing, right? Oh, it's just it couldn't maybe work with the lower tier. No, maybe it would. I don't know. Because you could just do that, right? Like just give temporary visas, and it's like as long as you're employed with this employer or something of the sort, you can stay here, but otherwise not. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a,
I guess
it's a predatory system.
the H-1B visas brings up a good point that like that was like a temporary solution. I guess what they're sort of trying to what I think that like I'm speculating here. What I think the end game is of all this is that they want to create like a permanent new status for these people, like some sort of mass amnesty where like while they're here 6 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year, they can work, they can pay taxes, they can use services such as like the medical insurance, things of that nature, but they'll be paid at lower than minimum wage because they're not full on citizens. They just become like a tier three, like a lower tiered, much like the H-1B visas. But the H-1B visas is temporary. It's like a temporary solution. It's a band aid solution. And they're looking
I
for more
see.
permanent legislature they could push through the House and also the
Damn,
Senate.
dude. This some dark shit because it's like, all right, let's say you're second tier. It's reminiscent to me of like caste systems in India or something. Not that I'm well educated in those, but it's like, how do you get out of your tier, right? Like, can you? Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see it much with like Puerto Ricans. They're given like they're not given full on statehood, but they are a U.S. territory, so they can come to the United States, but they just can't vote, or they're not charged
No, if they
state.
live here, they can vote
Yeah, but
permanently.
I'm saying like the territory itself, like
I
they're
see,
not given
of
much
course.
economic opportunities. They're much like they're less than U.S. citizens if they live in the homeland.
uh, if they stop doing coups in Latin and South American countries, that would probably solve the need for all of the people seeking asylum here. Because I feel like it's like every other year in the '80s they were doing a regime change or funding this group to fight against that group, just so an American fruit company can buy land there, and then 20 years later, all these countries are in the can, and then people are looking for opportunity with their neighbors, and then we've got our backwards politics that we're witnessing as a result.
Yeah, and I think I agree, right? But the question is more so it's like, what do we do from here? But it is important to know how we got here in the first place. That's definitely some of it. I think there's other, uh, other factors that have led to the sort of immigration that we see into America, illegal immigration, I may add.
You said
Um,
80 coups in South America since 1946. That's kind of
you
a
said
crazy.
80?
81.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Know the history, it really doesn't.
We overachievers like that, but regardless, the question is like, what do we do from here? And I just want to give my opinion real quick, and then what is like, call me a doomer or whatever. To me, is I don't. I'm sure we can theorize things that could be done, should be done, whatnot. But I've always been under the thing. It's like this is just the fire, right? We're just more or less watching it, right? So for me at least, the question is more so what's going to happen from here. What will continue to happen, and what can we reasonably expect will continue to occur in this nation, right? Right. Mm, fair enough. Interesting.
I disagree. Um,
Hmm.
I think like even if I were broke, I wouldn't resort to crime.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um,
What do you guys define American political culture as? Or like how do you think it manifests?
Invasion everywhere.
Nah, that's
There's
foreign
there's
policy.
what was that?
That's
exactly.
not.
We're talking domestics, but
That's
you
the
could also
foreign policy.
invasion there too, B. Shit.
There's a book I just posted in the side chat, or like a screenshot of the book, but it explains a lot about American political culture.
Um,
It's difficult because it's changed so many different times. It's not like one iteration of American political culture that has just persisted since 1789. Like it's been quite a few different cultures that America has
What are
adopted and transitioned from, and reiterations. Our most modern culture is from 1970s.
what would you say are the most common denominators?
so, um, me personally, and again, I'm not an expert in this. I just put up this article I've read that I felt like had a lot of insights into this. I can post it or whatnot here in a second. But the common denominators in America, and it's going to sound like I'm just being generalization or broad or stereotypically progress, whatever, is racism, unfortunately, um, uh, how do I say this, like gender roles, but not in that kind of way you guys hear me talking about it, but basically like uh, hierarchical gender roles that have been restrictive to women. And again, not arguing that women whatever, but like there have been some things, right? That's like women's liberation, first wave, second wave feminism. A lot of people agree with, at the very least, the fact that they should have the right to vote, um, and capitalism, right? Inequality. Those three things have been fundamental in shaping America. Yep. Racism, sexism, and capitalism.
How'd you forget American exceptionalism? This is the only like domestic political culture that is actually persistent.
Um,
American exceptionalism as an idea.
what do you mean by that?
That if it can be done, then it can be done in America.
To kind of piggyback off that, I feel like you could also attribute consumerism to American culture. Like we're just a nation that loves to consume. We love going to the store and seeing our favorite snacks are stacked in the aisle.
That's a
Now we're
newer
gonna do.
development, though.
I'd say it's probably pertaining back to like the '70s. Before it was probably seen in different ways, like maybe drive-in movie theaters, being more active for sure. But nowadays it's just more like, oh, when's the
But see,
next video game coming out? When's the next
the
show?
consumerism.
TV?
Go on. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, that was my point. You
Um,
could.
but again, like the consumerism could be attributed to capitalism, right? Um, and I definitely
No,
think
it's
that
not the
that's
same thing. It's not the same.
okay. Okay.
I guess, would you say that in China they have a consumerist culture because they're almost state-run capitalism, and so why would they be so dependent on like Americans buying things for them to be like the manufacturing base rather than just like trying to be their own consumer culture and then being their own manufacturing
they are
base?
working on that. Let's see. I'm not sure about
You want me
China. I
to?
have heard. Go on, Ollie.
I was going to ask. Do you want me to explain how capitalism and consumerism, uh, like manifest differently?
Sure, actually. Yeah.
So, like in the height of capitalism, in the Gilded Age, for example, consumerism was actually very low. The majority of people in America were poor. The majority of people in America were working class, and they really just needed their staple goods and basic necessities that they struggled to even purchase. But at the same time, America became very known for being the land of the richest people in the world. That's not the
Mm.
same thing as consumerism. That's capitalism.
And what
I would
would you
agree
say?
with you. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely the robber baron age. I guess when I was meant like consumerist culture, definitely like post World War II, after we sought out to rebuild the European economies and the European nation as a whole, since they received most of the bombing. We saw an explosion of like movie theaters here, Hollywood, a rise in fast food industry, clothing industry. We were much like the culture capital of the world, and trying to export this to everywhere else, and through the ideas of like neoliberalism. That's like why I believe it was Iran was named like the shopping mall of the Middle East and things. It's like we're very much a consumerist society.
And that was in 1970s. But again, it's like that's because America moved towards a service based economy, right? And so I would say it's not even just
The
like I'm sure.
financialization of the economy.
Um, I, I have heard of that notion or that idea. I definitely don't have understand it. I just don't have much insights into it. But yeah, I get that too. Um, so are you saying that service based um, economies are financialized economies?
Yeah. So instead of I'll try to give you an example. So let's say that there's a steel mill or a steel factory, right? And this is an industrial based economy. So there's real steel being made by real people in a warehouse, and these goods are traded and they have value and et cetera, right?
Hmm.
The financialization of this would be, say this company goes public and they create the idea of steel being valuable. And instead of people working in the steel mill and earning a wage through the production of steel, people speculate on the value of steel, and people make money through the speculation of the value of steel. And so inevitably, there will be less steel made because nobody's occupying the steel mill anymore. Everybody's just speculating on the prices of steel. That's the financialization of an economy.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Um, I understand your point.
Back off that.
So I have
The
a
gig
question.
economy.
Yeah.
I have a
Diosa,
question
please.
before we move on. Someone in the chat asks, are modern tech billionaires similar to the robber barons of the 19th century? Are they similar?
For parents.
It's in the text
Yeah,
chat.
the Carnegies, the steel industry, the
Oh
railroad
yes, of
industry.
course, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say there's parallels. There's definitely differences to make, but there's a lot of similarities.
I would
I
say so.
I I don't think they're a good comparison because if you look at Ford and Carnegie, they made their money through producing something of actual value,
What?
of real, tangible, infrastructural value that you can realize in an economy, because that was the way that capitalism worked at that time. A lot of these tech billionaires today, you know, and some of these billionaires today aren't producing anything of actual real value. There is no material good. There's
Let-
no material realization of their products.
I have to
I actually
fundamentally
wanted to
disagree with.
push back on this. Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
push back on this by mentioning that um, if what you're saying that like they don't produce anything of value, the financialization leads to stagnation. It's a different like market economy. Then at the end, when the Soviet Union dissolved, and then all of the crony capitalists in Russia went on to buy up most of the industry and then monopolize it, they actually stagnated their economy more than the U.S. did. You know, the U.S. GDP kept growing, even though they're not producing anything of value. They're not a manufacturing-based industry, and we actually still created a surplus of wealth and like newer elites, as Jiang likes to call them, right? The people who are highly motivated. They have the DID personality disorder. But meanwhile, it seemingly seems like Russia got stuck in like the 90s and 80s, like post, like they're still living off what they were producing during the Soviet Union.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen something like that. Actually. I guess Ali, my only thing is that it depends on how you mean it, but you know, I just have to disagree that tech billionaires. I guess it depends on which ones and what companies, but it's like they don't produce anything of worth. I mean, I just don't think that's true. You know, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, does Facebook. You feel like he has not provided any worth to anyone.
No, so I said material value, of real material value that could lead to a real tangible thing that you can see benefiting the general economy. They don't.
So, for example, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, you feel like that applies to what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a sentimental value. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg created a social media program in which you can connect and
Basically, I think
communicate, with your friends and family across these networks and things like
Yep.
that. Yes, this has sentimental value, sure. But it isn't the same thing as
basically I
building a
think
road
the
network.
argument he's making. I think basically the argument he's making is that we can live without Facebook, and we have, but what Carnegie and all these people produced, they are real and tangible, and so they are those things we cannot live without. I think that's the
I
argument.
I, I guess Ali to kind of like maybe make reference to a current modern practice for like economists that they have this thing called MMT. Are you familiar with it? Modern monetary theory.
Interesting.
That
Yeah.
any
Mhm.
country that issues its own currency, they can spend freely and then just have to like worry about the interest rate after the fact. And so like in America, somewhere where we don't produce anything of real value. You know, we don't have like the steel industries, the chip manufacturing, the automotive industry. It all left. Uh, we now just create widgets and we create these programs that run on their own, seemingly run on their own. And as a result, the United States government just kind of like the public sector funds this and spends freely. So then when it comes time to like pay the interest rate of this Federal Reserve loan or IR loan, we just have to we just mess around with the interest rates rather than having to pay the seemingly costs that we're expending.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
I don't completely disagree. It's just it's not all gone, right? We just have a highly financialized society, which is it just means that our real industries, like our primary, our secondary, our tertiary industries make up less than 30% of our economy, which is if you ask most classical economists, they would think that this is a very bad ratio.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I'd agree with you. I think that how Trump is trying to like reshore some of these chip set industries would probably be a good thing in the long term for American economy.
you mean like foster chip manufacturing in America?
Yeah, precisely that, and also building up
Yeah,
server farms,
like how
things that
Biden was
would
doing that with
provide
the CHIPS
value.
Act, which Trump like shut down. Dope.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Because
dope.
that's the strategy. You know, he creates a problem and then he seemingly solves the problem that he created, and he gives himself
Touch,
credit.
touch it, touch it. Um, wonderful. God damn it. Um, oh, look, and I don't know, we're moving past that point, but Ali, all I was gonna say is like realistically, Facebook doesn't just provide sentimental value, right? Like billions of, I don't know, maybe more so, millions of businesses globally advertise through Facebook in one way or another, which has very real world
How is
application
that
and benefit.
how is that tangible?
Well,
How
because
is that
then
something tangible? What
people
is an
then
advertising? An advertisement is meant to generate what?
interest in a business, which it does.
Which is a sentiment, right?
Okay, and then that is turned into money that they go and spend there that they otherwise wouldn't.
So they're monetizing sentiments.
But it's not producing anything real. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
producing,
I guess
it's
something more
advertising,
tangible.
guys. Is it any different than a billboard on the side of the road?
That's also a sentiment. Look, man, like you're missing what I mean
I think I am
by
missing what you're
real.
saying. I am missing what
You're
you're saying.
you're you're
Yeah,
you're missing what I mean by see. At least with the billboard, right? In
yeah,
order to place the billboard on the side of the road, there has to be still production in the company. At least with that.
yeah. But so
With
from a
with
technical
this, there.
perspective, from that perspective, you need people who are educated in networking, in server development, in services, and programming, who can then do it. Yeah, sure. There's a big argument to be made about how technology has allowed further consolidation of wealth in the hands of few, and that's a whole different discussion. But I mean, it's not just that you flip on the switch and that. Well, I mean, yes, but it's like there's a lot of leg room or legwork that had to be done beforehand, right?
Other than the tech sector,
Who's knows? Hmm. Yeah, I bet.
Ali, I guess to drive your point home, would you consider like a gig economy? Is that anything of real material production? So such a what comes to mind is like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon delivery, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. Like it's within the service sector, but it's a byproduct of the agricultural and food sectors, right? So they're not like just delivering you, a bag of good feelings. These things are material goods that need to be produced, and then there's a logistic chain, a production chain that has to exist, and that's what industrial capacity measurement of economy is based on. It's not based on like the idea of okay, we think this looks good. It's real value. something of real value, something that is actually tangible.
Okay.
So the facilitators, such as like the gig economy,
So
you're saying
basically,
there's
you're
less
saying
bloat there than like something like marketing and the other thing that the bear was trying to argue for, the Facebook industry and like social media apps.
No, not the entire thing. No, like I said, it depends. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but he speculated. Well, not speculated. He specified when he said like Uber Eats or DoorDash and these type of things, and I don't think that these things are like the as bad as like saying that it's a financialized version of the agricultural sector. I don't think that's the exact same thing.
What sort
mhm.
of phenomenon would
It's
you
it's a
label it? Is it just like the
it's a,
evolution of?
it's just a yeah,
Sure.
yeah, it's just a part of the logistics and production chain. It's evolved. Okay, you don't have to go to the grocery store. The truck, instead of going to the grocery store and putting the groceries on the shelf, the truck now comes to your house. It's not that big of a change. Right.
I mean, is Amazon? How do we feel about Amazon? Right?
It's a distribution company. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Whispering Tempest. Did you want to say something, man? I think I saw you.
no, I just wanted to. No, I was just agreeing with Ali there. Like, I feel like the point he's trying to make is that yes, these companies do produce a little bit of value, but they are just making our lives better, but not fundamentally changing anything. In the sense that we can live without them. For example, DoorDash or Uber Eats. I mean, you can still go to the shop and restaurant and purchase things on your own, right? So, which is more important, steel industry or the restaurant's food being delivered to your house. So you can still live
Exactly,
without them.
bro.
It makes your life better, but exactly.
But yeah, these billionaires that have made their billions on this, I think it's difficult to compare them to, Ford, Carnegie, Gilded Age types, because they didn't do it this way.
Well, it's like this, right? If you had to like live without one, which one would you live without, right? Would you live without what Ford and Carnegie produced, or would you live without what the tech billionaires produced?
I mean, but like that's always been the case, but that's always been the goal. I'm not saying that it's like mindless consumerism and I forget what kind of luxury it's like where it's like that's too much, right? But like probably. And so the debt isn't necessarily due to consumerism per se. It's just more so like funding the government and such. But like I guess all I'm saying is that realistically, what is a necessity? It's a home and it's food and community, right? Literally anything and everything other than that is a luxury. Sure. Yeah. Well, I could be wrong here, but it's I really don't think that that sort of thing is what's driving the the nation's debt. No, right? Of course not. Right. But that's also coming from the private sector, right? Like those sorts of things. That's an issue because the government is not spending money where it ought to, right? Or where in those things, right? But when it comes to consumerism and luxuries and necessities, that's wholly driven by the private sector, right? Like it's not the government that's paying for the ships to be bringing all this shit over, you know? Mm.
And 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 yeah, luxury consumerism was pushed through heavy advertising in the 1950s. This is how the culture changed. It's not like Americans woke up one day and said, "Hey, I need a $1,000 blender in my kitchen," because I just gotta have it. No, like this was pushed.
Yeah,
I don't
wasn't
deny
like
it.
Santa an invention of Coca
And they
Cola
were advertised
to
as
get
making your
more
lives
alcohol?
easier, right? I guess.
What
Like fundamentally, when
advertise?
they were introduced as this will make your life easier.
Sure, they're
But over
conveniences.
time, it became like you can't live without this. Exactly.
Of course.
So
Hmm.
that's the point, right?
Yeah. What do you need a blender for when you could buy egg beater? You know. But nobody thinks this way. Nobody thinks like this today. They're not going to spend 30 minutes beating something when they could just put it in a blender for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
convenience.
so so
Absolutely.
so now the blender is a necessity. And you get hand somebody an egg beater and they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? That's what people did before. So yeah, we've absolutely blurred the lines between like a luxury item and a necessity.
But it's for convenience.
Yeah, how do you toast a piece of bread without a toaster, DeBear?
I've never thought of that. Just throw it on the oven, probably, or in the the stove, Holmes.
The air fryer.
In a pan. In a pan.
He's-
Oh my
he
god.
said, "Oh,
Y'all
the
never
air
toasted
fryer."
bread in a pan
It's like,
before? What
why
the hell?
asking me these tough questions, man? Dang.
Some of y'all have never eaten a syrup sandwich and it shows.
Syrup sandwich is crazy. You put it on the skillet over the stove. All right, you know what? Does it matter? I have a toaster.
Wait a minute. Wait a
Wait,
minute.
how do you make grilled cheese then?
How did the
You don't put it on the
Italians
skillet.
cook a pizza though? Like the oven. That's a real thing. Bonfires, barbecue. Like, what are we talking about here?
Toasted. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, touch. Oh, well, okay, you know what? You know what? You know what? Y'all killing me out here. You guys are killing me because it's like you guys are acting like conveniences aren't, in some ways, a necessity, right? It's like, okay, yeah, cool.
No,
Let me get a
come
$10
on.
toaster, or
No,
they can do this shit in like
I don't
three
use a
minutes,
toaster.
or
I don't use a toaster.
let me build a brick like oven outside. Yeah, let me do that. You know what I mean? You're like,
And
come on,
food
guys.
made, food made in a
Mm.
brick oven tastes amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Like a real brick oven fired pizza is really good. But I think there's a golden ratio.
Go ahead and make your brick oven and let me know how that goes, G.
I
No,
honestly
no,
I
no.
would
Rice
have a lot
cooker.
of
You
fun doing
don't
that.
need a
I
brick
had some.
oven,
If
bro.
I had a nice backyard to build a brick oven in, I would for sure be building myself. But
Damn.
yeah,
It's like It's like we're like, oh,
bro.
convenience is
No,
this and that.
no,
We've blurred the line.
like
If we don't want no conveniences, why do we have cars, right? Let's go back to let's go walk. Let's walk. Horses are a luxury, y'all. Come on.
I walk a lot of places.
Well, that's what I was trying to mention earlier with the modern monetary theory is that they actually don't care about the debt anymore because now that they're freely spending, they just realize that the incoherent spending doesn't necessarily align with like, oh, if you have more debt, the economy is going to slow down. It's more about like managing the interest rate and how you manage, or how the federal government decides to manage the interest rate is through taxation. It just taxes the people more. The next generation, like you're mentioning, the next generation gets taxed more in order to bring back the inflation rate down, and then they'll cause more spending as a result of it. And so we actually don't keep
yeah,
track of the debt as much anymore.
yeah. Let's sacrifice the future of the party today. That's the idea.
Well, I guess the government. I guess what MMT hopes to achieve is to explain how the economy is still functioning, even though we have like what 1.7 trillion in debt. You know, like how is America still going? How's it not balkanized yet? Why are other countries not pressuring us to pay back the loans that were lended to America? So how they sought out to understand this was that the government spends freely, and then through taxation they regulate interest rates, and then the only the government now only has a legitimacy problem to where they can't let unemployment grow too much. Like the whole point of the government is to ensure full employment, so that way the taxes could keep coming in, and then the inflation rate gets stabilized.
But it's a little bit more complex than that, right? I think what Nerd Thug said actually is a little bit more spot on as the real reason. Yeah, like I do think MMT is an explanation of sorts, but I think that the real reason is because I mean, if you go into a country and you empty that country's bank account, most nations would consider this to be an act of war. I know we would, so there's repercussions for that.
I guess it's a little bit different for the U.S. since we're the global hegemon, and we issue our own currency. You know, it's not tied to gold anymore. It's
Mhm.
based off the legitimacy of the USD. That's what the MMT is trying to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, and we have the ability to go into a country's bank account and empty it.
Yeah, much like we did with the Japanese in the early 2000s. Yeah, we saw that Sony, the car industries, Honda, Mazda, Toyota, they were going to overpass us in America in sales in America, and so then we inflated the shit out of their yen, and as a result, it caused stagnation in their country.
Hmm. What do you do about that against the world superpower, the so-called world superpower? You just play the game.
Well, you
Yeah,
do
I wish
BRICS.
some of the empire's benefits would kick back to the civil society. That's for sure. You know,
That's
I
not how
feel
that
like we
works.
should
Oh
have
yeah, no, actually.
So
more.
how long can you keep this up though? So how long can you guys keep this up though? Like there has to be some negative like consequences of keep continuously getting in debt and pushing money, right?
We're going to find out,
Well, that's a different
probably
matter.
pretty soon.
So please. Uh,
So what would be the change this time? Like what's
I think that's more of a question for like the CIA or like a
this time?
defense
According to
commissioning
you all.
officer. You know, it's like it's not something for civil society to answer to. Although, like, our foreign policy is just so fucked. Like we just go to countries, mess them up, and then seemingly rebuild them in our image, and then keep their currency like afloat.
And then we complain when the people who are fleeing the war zones that we created come to our country to try to participate in our economy.
Yeah, exactly. We use and abuse our allies until they become our enemies, and then now that they're our enemies, oh, that's more money for the military-industrial complex. You know,
Yep.
it's more arms we can sell.
Sick.
Sorry to derail the conversation. What were you guys originally trying to get at? The bear and
Way
Ali?
back when? Oh, don't worry about that, G. And I went silent for my own sake.
Elon
You know
Musk
what I mean?
is Henry Ford, you know?
True. True.
But that's a
Yeah,
default,
I wanted
which is
to
real
add
bad.
something which was not mentioned, I think. If I missed it, just it's okay. It's the consumerism part. It's also very important on the sociological aspect of the society because I think we've started to see it was always that way, but we started to see people merely as like products of a system and the individuality part has been deprived, and we're all basically just some numbers in every case right now.
Uh,
Especially when it comes to technology and social media part.
Wait, I'm sorry, Miriam. Before, what was your broader point? I'm sorry. Could you
No,
just
I
rephrase your statement?
I was just saying that it's not only an economical thing, but also sociological. It has a lot of effect on people seeing each other or companies seeing people as merely as numbers and products too. Now we're not only consumers, but we're also products of many other companies because they,
I see.
use us as the product now.
Right, right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
I'm
If you're
telling you guys that this has always been the case, right? It's just that they talk about
No,
the idea of late stage capitalism, but like, it's just that this is we're always reaching a more and more perfect representation of capitalism, right? Like, it's just always been the play.
no, that's not
Yeah,
true.
whenever it's like
There are
pushed back
multiple
through.
different forms of capitalism that we went through. So like
I'm,
we're in like late stage shareholder capitalism. But it wasn't this before. We used to have welfare capitalism. This is the golden age America that everybody talks about, but nobody knows the name. It's called welfare capitalism, where when a company does very well, everyone in the company structure increases in profitability. That's what it was like. That was the Coca-Cola model or the
bro.
GM model.
Are you talking like post 1930s under the FDR administration when
And
like we
before
had
Yeah,
Reagan,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Jack
yeah, yeah.
Reagan
Well,
times.
no, no. Actually, before Jack Welch. Jack Welch is the reason why all of this changed. Yeah.
Um,
Are you talking about like before WPA and like the Public Works Administration and all that? The relief, the three R's of like FDR's economic plan. Forget it's like reliefs, something else.
No, no, no. I'm talking about after this. So like the social
Oh, okay.
programs
Like
FDR
Great Society
weren't as
under JFK.
weren't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I missed what you said last.
My bad. The before JFK was murdered, his Great Society, the vision of the Great Society, because I mean, originally it was his idea to go to the moon and like spend on all these public programs, and what he wanted to do was like a rehash of FDR, but without like the necessarily like federal arm controlling it all. And then after he was assassinated, Lyndon B. Johnson, he actually took this up and like implemented the plans.
Yo, shout out.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm pointing more towards Jack Welch because Jack Welch fundamentally changed the idea or the structure of what a profitable business model would even look like. And when he became the CEO of GM in 1981. He completely changed the idea of the business model for GM in order to create a profitability and profitability margins that would be attractive to shareholders. So the entire thing was no longer about service to the public, but it was about making the business model attractive to shareholders, selling shares to shareholders, and because this actually worked, and he like dismantled parts of the departments of um, General Electric, excuse me, not General Motors, of General Electric and everything like that. And a lot of the appliance departments and things like that, in which they had a reputation for, but there was still profitability. Many other companies adopted this exact same model, where they only cared about making their business attractive to the shareholder. And so it really created a drastic change in how people even viewed what the lowest economical unit would even be. Before that, that lowest economical unit would be the worker. But after Jack Welch's grand idea, it's you can argue that the lowest economic unit is now the consumer. No one is a worker anymore. They're not employees for the company. They're also consumers of the company. And that the only people that the companies actually work for are the shareholders. And this is modern, late stage shareholder capitalism.
From like listening
Is
to
this like similar
everyone
to what?
here.
No, go ahead, Yoso.
No, I was just gonna say like all of this really just comes down to power, like who creates it, who maintains it, and who gets to define it and its reality and what we're looking at right now. Everything that we've been talking about, the consumer culture, the way the individual has been hollowed out, the debt cycles, modern monetary theory, like they all just reflect how power organizes itself. And I was reading, and like after World War II, power stopped being about land and labor, and it just shifted into just money and this narrative. And Jack Welch and the shareholder values, they kind of made that clear that people weren't the core of the economy anymore. The profits were. So from there, money stopped serving humans and humans started serving money.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're also not only exploited for what we do within the capitalist system, but also for what we are within
what we
in it.
bring, exactly. It's all data, and it
Yeah.
disconnects us entirely. I mean, we see them. We see so many people now feeling detached and anxious, and this is why. This is why it just individuality just got stripped out, and we've been trained to fit roles. And that's just the reality of it. It's like a psychological conditioning.
And it's
We're
also
trained.
very sorry, yeah, so.
No, go ahead.
And it's also very beneficial and fruitful for the system that we have a lot of new labels, new identities, so that we are also used not only for what we are, but also our desires, our emotions, and what we represent in the market. So the more, divisions and different labels we have, the more there will be place for new products, new people, and yeah, basically more people for the
Yeah,
system.
to highlight the argument of the tracking that both Diosa and Miriam were talking about. Don't you think that like maybe moving your money away from these banks, like the mainstay banks, to like a credit union, that would help mitigate this? Or do you think like
I mean,
all facets of the financialization has already taken root.
I think it's important to understand that number one, these systems aren't going anywhere. Number two, we still have control over what we're using our money towards, because money, it's an energy, it's a currency, it's a frequency. So we do have the power as an individual and as a community to alchemize where this money is going. Maybe, more people are learning tech, more people are getting in these industries and educating themselves and can create new systems. So, like, the currency itself isn't going anywhere, but I think how we define power and who we give it to, that is worth cracking.
I can you repeat the question?
That wasn't really a question. It was more like you guys were talking about tracking and like how, because you know how like when you guys talk about money, I'm assuming you guys aren't talking about cash. You know, you guys are talking about debit cards, credit cards, things that the mainstay of banks track. So Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, that sort of thing. Something that would help mitigate or lessen the effects of like the tracking and therefore the marketing, the strategization, like everything, the financialization of the economy would be like moving your money to a credit union and like supporting more local credit unions, since they're just based off individuals in your community, local community, immediate surroundings that are investing in the bank as well, the credit union.
Okay.
Nope. Well, type shit. Type shit.
I mean, that's a practical way that we could decentralize our relationship to money for sure. It's meaningful. It's a meaningful act of resistance, I would say, because it will shift power even slightly away from corporate banks. So I think that's yeah. But credit unions, they still kind of operate within the same like monetary framework. So that's something that we can consider, but I believe their priorities are different and they're kind of built on a mutual benefit rather than, a profit, just a profit D company, the make, and what we see more today. So yeah, it's the question and what we need to focus on is where we keep our money and how we move that, because we truly do have the power. These people don't have the power. They set up a framework, and like Marianne was saying, and all these data and race and identity and blah blah blah, like that's all data to them, and it makes us feel it separates us. So I see how all of this is playing a bigger part.
Okay, so I got a question. So if you could do just one thing to flip over this current situation, right? What would you do? Like, what is that one change that could fix it all for the better? Or like at least the best way, best one step.
I think you gotta narrow that question down though, so it's a bit ambiguous.
Like, what's one thing that could fundamentally? Okay.
I
Go ahead.
think
Yeah,
valuing
like how
different
if you
things
could narrow the
is
question, it'd be
consistent.
about.
I'd like to hear
Pardon?
everybody's answer to his question, to be honest.
I'll go first. For me, I think if we begin valuing, like if we have to focus on different things. Clearly, what's been focused on right now is it's completely mediocre. But if we begin valuing human development, community health, stability, and creativity the same way that we value like quarterly returns or GDP, the entire system will begin to shift. So it is a vague question, but yeah, it's just we should shift our focus a little bit on some things.
Yo,
Okay,
before we
let me like.
Yeah,
Okay, I
that makes
think
sense.
yeah,
let me like.
hold on.
Okay, let me
Before
like
anything else,
properly
can I say
properly like
something?
phrase the question.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
go on, dog.
No, that'd be actually great if you rephrase the
Yeah,
question,
yeah, do
maybe.
that.
So basically, the question that I wanted to ask was: let's say suddenly you were made the leader of the United States, and you could take one decision to perhaps mitigate the problem to the best of your ability? What is one new policy or one decision that you will take to best deal with the current issue? I'm not saying what's one thing that we should do, but one decision that could be taken to best deal with it.
Okay, I got one. I got one. I think I get what you're trying to get at.
I've got an
As
answer too.
commander, you have control over the federal army. I would deploy the Army Corps of Engineers to fix our dog shit infrastructure. So that would mean roads, highways, bridges, train, railroad stations, as well as like the electrical infrastructure. So making more power lines underground. That way, there's less outages during fucking high winds, high torrential storms, like Florida getting hit with a fucking hurricane every now and then. Updating infrastructure such as the internet, because much of New Mexico is like on fucking dial-up still for some reason. So I would deploy the Army Corps of Engineers to fix a lot of our infrastructural problems.
Okay, I got a 3. Abolish the Federal Reserve. Done. Done. Game.
Yeah,
We're good.
then you randomly go on a random
That's what I
motorcade
was
in
looking
Texas,
for, to be fair.
Houston, Texas, and you get your brains blown out.
Oh yeah, shout out JFK.
Yeah,
Um,
shout out, literally.
all right, but.
I would I don't know who said it, something about energy, but I would push for decentralizing renewable energy. Like we could do like solar co-op, local wind projects, um, small community grids, and it's like when people actually own their own power, like because right now all of our energy comes from big companies, and I'm reading more about this because in Puerto Rico we're ruled by this freaking company all in Canada. So when energy comes from local, more like we own that, that's when things are going to be shifting. So I think, yeah, if every town
Yeah.
could generate and store its own clean energy, that would do a lot. That will cause a ripple effect.
I think
People
I
will be
think
independent, the economy will be more stable, and we will stop blowing millions on oil wars because that's what it is. I really don't know what is the resistance, and someone can challenge me or educate me. What is the resistance on switching from energy? Because right now we're on oil. Look at everything that's going on.
Petrodollar homes.
the petrodollars.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
In large part. I mean, also I mean, everybody knows that anybody who deals with oil, they make a lot of money. They have a vested interest in keeping the oil flowing and supply and demand, high demand for it. But also, yeah, the U.S. petrodollar power, as in like it's a big chunk of our global dominance. So
Another,
And you know what?
yeah,
I was
I think it'd
another
be
angle to
really
look at
cool.
it.
Oh,
I
can I
was gonna
answer that
say that.
question? Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead,
Sorry.
go ahead, B.
I was just gonna say I think it'd be really cool. Someone threw out the Army Corps of Engineers. I think it'd be cool if they created like a civilian sustainability corps or like a civilian corps of engineers or something like that to that effect, where um, it'd be something that would create a lot of jobs to take on the task
JFK
of like
did.
rebuilding.
Well, the Peace Corps.
True.
Well, the Peace Corps, yeah, the Peace Corps, but like specifically aimed at like rebuilding America's infrastructure and finding points that can be more sustainable. And like, yeah,
Who
like the
says
Army Corps of Engineers, like they do have like a standing force of people that could do that, but they could also train civilians and create like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe of jobs for people um, in the process.
but yeah, I wanted to say like
kind of like
JFK already did this, but who says the Peace Corps can't do anything in America? Of course they can.
Right, right.
yeah, I'm
There's
in
no
agreement with you.
restriction.
Like
Why
to
don't they?
expand on the conversation that you're mentioning, the Biden administration actually tried to tackle this through the Green New Deal, and that actually goes back into like being less reliant on fossil fuels. But if you actually like take a look at the bill, we're pretty much tapped out on like water dams and like, turning hydroelectric dams into energy for our infrastructure and our grid. So the only thing we could expand on would be solar and wind, and both of those, if you look at the fatigue life of parts, they need constant maintenance, and that constant maintenance still needs energy input to then develop like the solar panels and or
Right.
the parts that wear off on the wind turbines, and that uses fossil fuel energy. So we're never going to truly become independent of fossil fuel energy unless we move to something like nuclear. But you know, there's disasters that happen with that. Uh, so it would just be becoming less reliant on fossil fuels while
Yeah,
expanding technologies into.
we can
But
we
yeah,
can
the
try to
Biden administration proposed
the
the Green New
ratio in
Deal
another
that was freeing
direction.
a bunch of people. Yeah, so my background is mechanical engineering, and the problem with the hydroelectrolysis water-powered car is that Japan actually has one. They have the Toyota. They're currently doing hydrogen combustion engines. The problem is the hydrogen needs to be packed at such a high pressure, and for that matter, if when it's packed at such a high pressure, it's called a hydrogen fuel cell. That whenever a car crash would happen, and you know, in America, we have a lot of distracted teen drivers, so it's like about like 10,000 a year. They're a lot more violent of car crashes, and so the actual setback in a hydro powered car, which would be cool, like a neat idea, is how do you protect the hydrogen fuel cell from like rupturing? Because like any sort of small leak, the hydrogen being packed at such a high pressure, it actually self ignites, and so it's like a bomb just waiting to blow up every time.
Okay, the plastiline.
Yeah. I'm in support of more diesel engines. Definitely, they burn, they have more complete combustion cycle. So because the diesel engine works different from a gasoline powered engine, it uses a glow plug, and the actual diesel fuel itself self ignites just from heat, rather than like in a gasoline engine you need a spark plug that generates like electricity or like a small arc. So yeah, like something like plastiline, I'd be in favor of. Definitely, corn is also another one. You could turn corn husk and corn you know, like we're a very wasteful society. The
Yeah.
American society,
Can't
we
you
waste a
can't
lot of
you
food.
turn
So a lot of our
human
corn is
waste
made
or
of
human
diesel.
excrement into biofuel?
I missed it. One more time.
Sorry, I was just wondering, can't you turn human waste like human excrement into biofuel as well?
Yeah.
I
This is
believe so.
used
Yeah,
in
there's like any organic matter could become
yeah.
biodiesel. It's
It's
just a
used
matter of like how much of a quantity do you want.
well, yeah, but it's the ethanol. It's the ethanol from the feces. The island where I come from uses in some parts they use animal feces and they extract the ethanol and they make heating and that's how they power heating and stuff like that and cooking stoves. But it's clean ethanol.
I concur. I concur.
I wanna go back to that question though that someone asked about like if you were made president today, like what's some legislation that you would enact to make things better. Um, I think it'd also be good to. I mean, this probably goes without saying. I don't know if someone else said this, but just diverting funds from military contracts, like excessive weapon spending, to redirect those funds towards like housing the homeless, rebuilding infrastructure as well. Um, I think like that would be like a key component that would make things better. Also, banning like war profiteering and enforcing uh, like more transparency on defense contractors and stuff. Um, I think there's like the Pentagon didn't start performing audits until like 2017, and it hasn't passed one since. Um, so it's just like a lot of money. That's just like taxpayer money that just goes into like a black hole, so to speak, you know, and you'll never know what they're spending that money on. But definitely like more transparency would be good. Yeah, in circulation. Yeah, in use. Yeah, good point. What is something that we could back money with? Uh, I don't know. Hopes and
Nothing.
dreams. Oh,
Literally nothing.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just let them have that. Which is actually the complete opposite. Cryptos is horrible for the environment. But it's okay because global warming isn't even true, so we're good. I was kidding. I'm sorry.